Live NFL trivia every Tuesday night on Twitch at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come show off your football knowledge and have a chance to win cash prizes. Check the link in the description to find out more. And now, on with our feature presentation. Perhaps one of the most infamous scandals in the over century-long history of the NFL is Spygate. I'm not going to dive too much into the specifics of it because there are tons of videos and articles out there about it, and it's pretty well documented. However, to make a long story short, Eric Mangini and the Jets accused Bill Belichick and the Patriots of illegally filming the Jets. The penalty for this was severe, as New England was fined $250,000, Belichick was fined $500,000, and the Pats lost their first-round pick in the 2008 NFL Draft. Odds are, you guys knew that already. What you might not know is that this wasn't the first time that the Jets accused a team of cheating through the use of video filming, and this accusation was way worse. This one could have decided an entire season and an entire championship, because in 1967, the New York Jets accused the Houston Oilers of cheating, and this is the story of what might just be the craziest cheating controversy in the history of the American Football League. Before I talk about the actual incident, we need some context leading up to the game and the accusation, because it will help us to understand why the Jets were so mad at the Oilers here. The year is 1967, and the structure of the American Football League is pretty simple. There's two divisions split East and West. The winner of each division goes on to the postseason, and the winner of the league's championship game ends up going to Super Bowl II. There were no wild cards. You had to win your division or else the season was over. And there were two legitimate contenders in the East. One of them was the New York Jets. It's easy to see why the Jets were so good that year. You had Joe Namath, the first quarterback in the history of professional football to ever throw for over 4,000 yards in a single season. You had Don Maynard, arguably the best receiver in the AFL, who led the league by averaging over 100 yards per game. Thanks to a dominant offense, the Jets were one of the best teams in the entire league, and through 10 games, they were 7-2-1, looking like formidable contenders to represent the AFL in the Super Bowl. Heck, they gave the Oakland Raiders their only loss of the season, and that game wasn't even particularly close, as they led by 20 late in the fourth quarter. The Jets were legit. The other one was the Houston Oilers. Wally Lem, who previously won the AFL championship with Houston back in 1961, was back. The Oilers were a good team. They had Hoyle Granger, their fullback who led the entire AFL in yards from scrimmage that season and only fumbled once on 267 touches, which was almost unheard of back then. They had a dominant defense that finished first in passing and rushing touchdowns allowed, led by star quarterback Miller Farr, who had a league-best 10 interceptions and 3 pick-sixes. But as good as they were on November 19th, they were only 5-3-1, 1.5 games back of the Jets. It would take quite the collapse for the Jets to not win this division. However, the Jets began to slide. They went on a 2-game losing streak. In a loss to the Denver Broncos, they turned it over 6 times, and they only scored 7 points against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Jets had lost 2 straight games by multiple possessions, and with the Oilers having won 2 of their last 3, with just 2 games to play, the Oilers and Jets were now tied atop the AFL East at 7-4-1. And with that, the pressure was on. On the second to last week of the season, the New York Jets were going to play the Oakland Raiders on Sunday, December 17th. The Houston Oilers were scheduled to play the San Diego Chargers on Saturday in a nationally televised game on NBC. The fact that this game between the Oilers and the Chargers is nationally televised, allowing the Jets to watch it, will become incredibly important in just a few minutes. Obviously, the importance of this game cannot be overstated. If Houston wins, they enter Sunday with sole possession of the division lead for the first time all year. While they lost to the Chargers 13-3 earlier in the season, much like the Jets, the Chargers are on a skid of their own, having dropped 2 straight games in blowout fashion, so this is anyone's ballgame. On a rainy day at Rice Stadium, the Oilers and the Chargers were as evenly matched as you can get. Houston had 21 first downs, while San Diego had 19. Oilers quarterback Pete Beathard threw for 188 yards, while Chargers quarterback John Hadl threw for 198. As a side note, I made a video about John Hadl and a controversy around this time with the Chargers, which you can learn more about by clicking the card in the upper right corner. The Oilers had 56 yards of penalties, while the Chargers had 53. So in almost every sense of the word, these teams were neck and neck. However, it was the Oilers who wound up prevailing. After trailing 7-3 midway through the second quarter, Hoyle Granger punched it in from a yard out to give Houston a 10-7 halftime lead. From there, despite the muddy conditions, Beathard did what he had to do in the second half, throwing 2 touchdown passes. He hit the rookie running back Woody Campbell for an 8-yard score in the third quarter, and then hit second-year tight end Alvin Reed in the fourth quarter on a 15-yard strike. When the final gun sounded, the Houston Oilers were victorious, winning the game by a final score of 24-17. And just like that, they had sole possession of first place in the AFL East. After 4 straight seasons with a losing record, and 3 straight seasons with double-digit losses, they were in the pole position to make the postseason for the first time since 1962. But with the win came controversy. because the Jets were watching this game on national television, and in their eyes, they noticed something. They thought that they caught the Oilers cheating. Curt Gowdy is one of the most famous announcers of the history of professional football. While his illustrious career would eventually have him call 9 Super Bowls, including the very first one, back in 1967 he was known as the main play-by-play guy for the NBC's coverage of the AFL. He was on the call for this Oilers game, and in the second quarter, he made quite the statement. On the broadcast, he noticed something. He said that the game was being videotaped, and that after each play, the Oilers assistant coaches in an adjoining booth to the NBC one were going to the camera to watch the replay. That's quite the accusation, and obviously, if it's true, it's not allowed. It's against the rules of the AFL, and if found guilty, the Oilers could be forced to forfeit the game. Naturally, when the Jets heard this statement being made by Gowdy on the broadcast, they were up in arms. They needed the Oilers to lose, and the fact that they were winning by cheating rightfully infuriated them. And it was made even worse by the fact that Jets head coach Weeb Ewbanks said that when they played the Oilers in a preseason game, that the Oilers were videotaping, and the Jets protested, but let it slide once Houston said it was only going to be for preseason games. So Houston apparently had a pretty severe history of this. With that, Jets owner Sonny Werblin called up the commissioner's office. He demanded action and an investigation. Commissioner Milt Woodard agreed, and he looked into the matter. What did he find? Well, there were video cameras set up. That part was true. However, the cameras weren't actually on. The cameras were only there for the purposes of filming the halftime show, which was a performance by the Southwest Texas State College Marching Band. They filmed none of the game whatsoever. Not only did the Oilers give sworn statements, but Mel Hine, the AFL supervisor of officials, said nothing about the Oilers cheating. And Jerry Wynn, the director of public relations for the Chargers, voiced no complaints either. He said that the tape was only used during halftime and nothing more. That raises the obvious question. Why on earth did Gowdy make that accusation then? Why would he go on the air in front of a national TV audience and say such a thing? Turns out, what makes this all the more puzzling was that Gowdy never actually saw the Oilers coaches using the equipment, nor did any NBC personnel members see it. Gowdy issued a retraction in the fourth quarter and apologized after the game. But still, that is a big thing to say on the air, and I'm somewhat surprised Gowdy didn't get reprimanded or even fired for these comments. Because of his remarks, a league-wide investigation had to be conducted that could have led to the entire season being changed. Alas, when Commissioner Woodard emphatically stated that he could conclude that the Houston Oilers did not use any video equipment for scouting purposes, and therefore were not in violation of the constitutions and bylaws of the American Football League, that should have been the end of it, right? Well, there's still a bit more to our story. As you can imagine, the Jets were not pleased with the results of this. They were convinced that the Oilers were cheating, and potentially screw them out of a division title. The Jets were unhappy with the thoroughness of the investigation, accusing the league of doing nothing but speaking with Don Klosterman, the general manager of the team, who was obviously going to deny the allegations. Werblin, not holding back, said, "I'm demanding a lie detector test. I'm not content with just an investigation. If any coach is found to be lying in this matter, I want him expelled from professional football." The AFL did nothing more. It also didn't help that, in a fantastic bit of irony, following their game the following day against the Oakland Raiders, the Raiders accused the Jets of cheating, noting that they had to kick multiple people out of their closed practices because they thought they were illegally there, and that some of the personnel adjustments that the Jets made didn't make a whole lot of sense when based on their previous history. But after Woodard's statement of absolving the Oilers, that was the last of this controversy. And this would be the last time in the history of Houston professional sports that a team would be involved in a cheating controversy. Never happened again. As for how everything played out after this, the Oilers won their final game of the season in convincing fashion, defeating the Miami Dolphins 41-10 on the final week of the season. And with the Jets losing their game to the Raiders, the Oilers somehow won the division, claiming the AFL East title. While it wouldn't amount to anything, as the Oilers lost 40-7 in the AFL Championship to the Raiders, to almost run the table and win the division after winning just 4 of your first 8 games is remarkable. But considering the circumstances, how late in the season it was, the fact that it was sparked by an announcer who had no proof whatsoever, and the fact that it wasn't even the losing team who was complaining, this might just be the craziest controversy in the short 10-year history of the American Football League. Get your official Jaguar 9 merchandise by going to jg9shop.com, and be sure to like this video, ring the notification bell, subscribe down below if you haven't already, as it helps the channel out a lot, and be sure to check out Twitch every Monday and Tuesday night at 9 PM Eastern for a chance to play NFL Trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. If you want to see videos like this condensed down to 60 seconds, then follow me on TikTok at JaguarGator9, and subscribe to 60 Second NFL History on YouTube. To see highlight videos of players throughout the history of the NFL, subscribe to JG9 Highlights. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. See how you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.